Welcome to Shadow of History, mysterious, dark, and untold stories from world history. Today, we explore two of the most horrific and blood-soaked battles in human history that most people have never heard of in detail: the Battle of the Somme and the Battle of Stalingrad. These two battles, though distinct in their contexts and outcomes, are remembered for their staggering casualties, immense suffering, and the profound impact they had on the course of World War I and World War II. Both battles represent the brutal realities of war and are a testament to the horrors that soldiers and civilians faced. Let's begin with the Battle of the Somme, one of the bloodiest battles in World War I. It was fought between July 1st and November 18, 1916, and involved British and French forces fighting against the German Empire along a 15-mile front in northern France. The goal of the battle was to relieve pressure on the French army at Verdun and break through the German defenses. The initial strategy was to launch a massive artillery bombardment that would decimate the German defenses, allowing the infantry to advance easily. But what followed was a tragedy of epic proportions. The first day of the Battle of the Somme is often referred to as the bloodiest day in British military history. On July 1st, the British forces suffered almost 60,000 casualties, with more than 19,000 men killed in just one day. The bombardment had failed to destroy the German defenses as expected, and the soldiers who charged forward were met with devastating machine gun fire. The battle would drag on for over 4 months, with no decisive breakthrough and an immense loss of life. By the time the battle ended, the British and French forces had suffered around 620,000 casualties, while the Germans lost about 500,000. The horrific toll was not only physical, but also psychological, as the soldiers faced the constant terror of artillery bombardments, poison gas, and close-quarter combat. The Battle of the Somme is often remembered for its staggering human cost and the senseless slaughter that resulted from outdated military tactics. It marked the first major use of tanks in warfare, though they were not enough to turn the tide. In the end, the Allies gained only a few miles of territory, but the loss of life was unimaginable. The Battle of the Somme remains a stark reminder of the futility of trench warfare and the immense suffering endured by soldiers in the trenches. It is a chapter in history that is often overshadowed by other events of World War I. But its impact on the war and on the soldiers who fought there is undeniable. Now, let's turn to the Battle of Stalingrad, which took place during World War II from August 23, 1942 to February 2, 1943. This battle, one of the most brutal and pivotal of the war, was fought between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union in the city of Stalingrad, now Volgograd, in southern Russia. It was a battle for control of the city, which was strategically important for the Germans due to its proximity to the oil fields of the Caucasus. The Nazis had already invaded much of the Soviet Union, but Stalingrad became the focal point of their campaign in the east. The Battle of Stalingrad was a war of attrition, with both sides suffering horrific casualties. The fighting in the city was brutal and close quarters, with street-by-street, house-by-house combat. The Germans initially made rapid advances, but the Soviet forces, under General Vasily Chuikov, launched a series of counterattacks. The battle quickly became a desperate struggle for survival, with both sides suffering from extreme shortages of food, ammunition, and medical supplies. The civilians of Stalingrad were caught in the middle, with many of them forced to fight or die in the ruins of their own city. By the time winter set in, the German forces were stretched thin, and the Soviet Red Army launched a counteroffensive that encircled the German Sixth Army. The Germans were trapped, with no possibility of retreat. The harsh winter conditions made survival even more difficult, and food became so scarce that the soldiers resorted to eating whatever they could find. The situation grew increasingly dire, and by February 1943, the remaining German forces were forced to surrender. The Battle of Stalingrad was one of the turning points of World War II. The Soviet victory marked the beginning of a series of defeats for Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front, ultimately leading to the fall of Berlin and the end of the war in Europe. The cost of the battle was staggering. Estimates of the total casualties vary, but it is believed that over 2 million people died during the battle, including both military personnel and civilians. The city of Stalingrad was left in ruins, and the human toll was incomprehensible. The Battle of Stalingrad is often remembered for its scale, its brutality, and the sheer endurance of the Soviet forces. It became a symbol of Soviet resilience and determination in the face of almost certain defeat. The battle was also significant for the role it played in the larger context of World War II, as it marked the beginning of a shift in momentum against the Germans. However, like the Battle of the Somme, Stalingrad is a grim reminder of the human cost of war and the unimaginable suffering that comes with it. Both the Battle of the Somme and the Battle of Stalingrad are often overshadowed by the more famous battles of the two world wars, but their impact cannot be understated. These battles were not just military engagements, they were human tragedies that shaped the course of history. The loss of life, the suffering, and the psychological toll on the soldiers and civilians who endured these battles are lessons we must never forget. The brutality of both battles also highlights the horrors of war. Not just the combat, but the destruction of entire cities, the loss of communities, and the devastating impact on the lives of those who survived. It's important to remember that behind the statistics of casualties and the strategies of war, there were real people who endured unimaginable hardships. The sacrifices made by soldiers and civilians during these battles should never be forgotten. As we reflect on the Battle of the Somme and the Battle of Stalingrad, we are reminded of the true cost of war. These battles, though largely unknown to many, represent some of the bloodiest and most devastating moments in history. The stories of the men and women who fought, suffered, and died in these battles deserve to be remembered, and their sacrifices should serve as a reminder of the importance of peace and the human cost of conflict. Thank you for joining us in uncovering the dark history of the Battle of the Somme and the Battle of Stalingrad. If you found this story thought-provoking, be sure to subscribe to Shadow of History for more mysterious, dark, and untold stories from the depths of world history. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos. Until next time, stay curious and continue exploring the untold stories that have shaped our world.